Good morning and welcome to the Black Pill Radio Show. I'm your host, Tyler, and today we have a wonderful topic. We are talking about building black wealth, specifically building black wealth within the black community. Sitting with me in studio today, I have Courtney Richardson. She is a small business owner in Philadelphia. She also works with clients on building businesses, starting businesses, and investments. I also have Shalia Walker, and she is a small business owner in New Jersey, and she will be on a panel talking about how to start a business. On the telephone lines today, we have four panelists, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves. So, ladies, we'll start with you guys, and we'll start with Michelle Hartley.
Hi, good morning. My name is Michelle Hartley. I'm a management consultant, retired executive VP. I was a Wall Street portfolio manager for about 17 years. And I now work as an organizational analyst, and I'm a professor of finance at CUNY in New York City. Nice to be here.
Oh, thank you, Michelle. So next up, let's have Walida.
Hi, everybody. My name is Walida, and I'm from Dallas. I am the CEO of Walida Cherie Financial Education Solutions. And so what that basically means is that I learn everything about finance, and I teach it to people. I am a teacher by profession, and so I figured I'd use my gifts in something that I really have a passion for, and that is finance. So I teach people about budgeting, savings, different types of retirement funds, different types of insurances, as well as understanding different types of investments. And thank you guys for having me here today.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Doreen Iafora. I am the CEO of Rain Consulting. We are a financial consulting firm, so we help individuals as well as small businesses manage their finances in their accounting services and their budgeting and increase revenue to their bottom line. We actually really do place a lot of emphasis lately. We've been placing it on financial education for the individuals in minority population. So I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you. And lastly, hopefully LaShawn is on the line with us.
Yes, good morning. I'm here. My name is LaShawn Muhammad. I'm the Brooklyn director of the Long Island African American Chamber of Commerce, and I am working right now with an affordable housing product called NACA, and we're very excited to have them open their office in Brooklyn.
All right, sounds wonderful, ladies. So everybody's in the room, and I appreciate that. So I want to throw the first question to Courtney, and this first question is general. So according to many statistics, black people as a group, we are the poorest people in America. So how do we change this, and how do we start to increase wealth within the black community?
I think it's the biggest thing is that it's a three-pronged approach. The first thing is that we have to get our wealth in this generation, and then we have to move it on to the next generation. So the first thing is that we have to save and invest and be mindful of what we're doing now. Then the next thing is that we have to be able to share that wealth with the next generation, so making sure that we have wills in place. And then the final thing is that for everyone, we have to educate ourselves about finances. It's so important that we educate, we understand how this thing works, and that we can play this game of finances better than anyone else. It's about that education, about cutting back on consumerism, learning how to save, learning how to invest, to be able to pass something on to the next generation.
Sounds wonderful. So I want to throw that same question to Shalia. How do we begin to build wealth within the black community?
Well, I completely agree with everything Courtney said. And I think she addressed consumerism. Consumerism is a huge problem amongst everyone. And I think that's one of the first steps is controlling where we spend our money, what we spend our money on. Next thing I feel that we need to look to is entrepreneurship and creation. With those two, we can take more control over what we have in our lives, the lives that we are creating.
All right, sounds really good. So, LaShawn, when we talk about building black wealth within our communities, where do you feel we should start?
So again, I agree with what the young lady said regarding entrepreneurship, but also home ownership. We need to own the businesses in our community and own homes in our communities. You know, we're not going to build wealth by renting apartments forever. So that's another component that I think we need to take a serious look at.
Okay, and Michelle, where do you feel we need to start?
Well, one thing that I do at CUNY is I'm part of a program called College Now. And what that is, we have high-achieving high school students throughout the 5 boroughs of New York City. And they apply to get in a program where they take college credits. They get 3 credits for each course that they take in finance and entrepreneurship. And I teach entrepreneurship primarily. So I think you have to start with that younger generation as well. So by the time these kids, they finish, a lot of times when they get to college, they're already high school sophomores with 15 to 18 credits in finance and entrepreneurism. And I think that's a really good base. By the time they're finished, they know how to start up a business. They understand all of the markets, domestic and international. They know as much as they can about human resources and how to evaluate taxes and so on and so forth. And then they actually are passing that information along to their parents. I've had some of their parents actually join the courses. So I work with the youngsters, and that's a good place to start. Another thing I've noticed in working so many years on Wall Street is a lot of the larger firms don't have a tendency to market in our neighborhoods under the assumption that we're not necessarily have the assets to invest in the markets, which is obviously false. So another thing I do is I teach in the community, whether it's a firehouse or I go to schools or I teach in a lot of churches, that the assets start from $1. So I teach people how to figure out what type of retirement plan is good for them, what an IRA, if they're a business, a SEP plan, the things they can do that's tax advantage. So it's just education, and that's all you can do in the communities, marketing yourself that you're there to help. Do a lot of volunteer work, and I love working with the children. That's really where it starts as well.
So when you worked with the children, I don't know how long you've been doing it, but have any of them have actually taken what they learned from your classroom and used those strategies in the real business world? And if so, have any of them have like a successful business or recently launched a business?
Well, so I'm working with ages 15 to 18. Good question, and the answer to that is yes. So I've had 3 students that now are freshmen in college. One has a beauty and makeup business. A few of them have developed specific applications that have gotten patented and have their own businesses. So I would say over the last 5 years of running the entrepreneurship program, I have about maybe 26 to 30 students that have actually had businesses that are startup that are still actually moving and growing. So that's very gratifying to know. And
sounds wonderful. So let me throw the next question to Walida. Walida, where do you think we should start when it comes to creating black wealth?
Okay, so the first thing that I think that people need to do first is change their mentality. So knowing that money can be achieved in terms of wealth. So the first thing that people the first step they should take is learning how to budget. So that's basically teaching you how to discipline yourself to know where your money is going exactly. Are you spending your money primarily on bills? Does your money go more on leisure items? Understanding where your money is flowing is the first step, I believe, in achieving wealth. Because if you don't have the discipline, you can be like a lottery winner who wins millions of dollars and be broke in another year or two because you don't know how to utilize the money. So having education about the money and then knowing how to allocate the money, I believe, is the first steps in taking to achieving wealth.
Okay, sounds really good. Everybody's given a lot of good examples, and they're different so far. So I want to ask the next question to Doreen. Same question, matter of fact. How do we start to create wealth within the black community?
You know, I absolutely agree with all the answers so far. One of the ways that I think is very important is education. You know, I've met with a lot of young women and men who want, financial tools. They want to know that they have access to wealth. Unfortunately, they don't know where to start. And in order to move towards, financial literacy, financial success in our community, we have to start by providing young individuals with the tools or access to the tools and let them know that they have the ability to achieve financial success in the long run with, things like budgeting success, how to manage investing, savings. A lot of individuals that I've spoken to, unfortunately, they work in organizations, they're young professionals, and very few of them have actually started doing things like contributing to their 401k. And that's because nobody's really told, of the importance of such a contribution. So I think education is very.
Okay, so we have two people talking about education. Somebody mentioned we need to start building our credit first, and those are the first steps we should take. LaShawn Muhammad mentioned ownership, home ownership, and Walida talked about changing our mentality and start to budget better, start to be more fiscally responsible with our money. So I want to throw the next question to Shalia, because Shalia is a business owner. So I want to know for you, when did you first start thinking about owning a business, and what was the process of bringing that thought into actual fruition?
I first started thinking about owning a business. I guess I was maybe like 24, around that. I worked in corporate. I worked in IT, and I had a great job. I had a great position. I traveled, but I had no passion. And that's when I really had to go back in the lab with myself and figure out what I wanted to do, because I knew staying in this job that I would have a cap on my life. And just the idea of having a cap on my life, my income, didn't sit well with me. I knew it might take starting from the beginning, but I knew that my options were limitless once I would take things in my own hands.
So did you have anybody in your life who tried to discourage you or just kind of talk you out of doing it?
Yes, I had. I remember I was dating someone at the time, and he was like, "This is the best job you'll ever have in your life." He was just like, "Why would you walk away from this?" And I just knew that it was a great job and it was a great lifestyle, but my passion wasn't there. And I knew that it was being really small-minded to just stop with a great job, because it's just a job.
Right. So I assume you're not with him anymore.
No.
Okay. Good call. So yeah, sometimes we'll have people out there who will try to discourage us from pursuing our dreams, pursuing our passions, and they want us to stick to a job and not own a business. But the thing with having a job is it's something we can't pass down, right? We can't have residual income and pass it down to our children and our children's children. We can't go to Mr. Charlie and say, make sure my kid gets this job when I'm finished with the job. Like that's not gonna happen. But we can definitely pass down assets, wealth, land, ownership, that kind of thing. So that's the mindset, as Walida had mentioned, that we need to get into. So staying with the idea of changing our mentality, Miss Walida, I would like you to talk a little bit more about what we can do specifically. Give us a lot of options of what people out there can do specifically to change their mentality about saving and about wealth creation and thinking about passing that wealth down to their children.
Okay, so the first thing I would do as an exercise is I would envision myself as an elderly individual. So me being the age I am right now, saying how would my life look later? So the decisions I think people need to think about when they're making them today is how is that going to affect their future selves? So if you are a splurger now, when you finally get to the point when you're relying on the fixed income, how is that going to look for you? So that's what I mean by changing your mentality so that you can still live good now, but later on still have that same opportunity to live the lifestyle that you want. So the specific measures would be to first pay off whatever debts you owe, because you can't truly accumulate wealth as long as you're borrowing from other people and you need to give back money to other people. So figuring out a way to pay your debts back. Some people like what's called the snowball effect. That basically is whatever your smallest debt is, paying that off first so that you can build up confidence to be able to pay off the rest. Whereas some people argue that if you pay off the higher interest debt or loan, then that will, save more money in the long run because you're not paying the high interest rates. So paying off your debts, learning about different types of investments. When I was younger, I was told to put my money in a CD. Well, when I did further research, it wasn't going to yield money at all, not the type of money I wanted. Furthermore, if I wanted to take the money out, it was going to be a penalty to take it out sooner than later. So I would say, number one, plan for the future starting today. Don't wait until tomorrow to plan for the future. Learning what type of investments will give you the best return. Don't just put your money in something and then in 20 years you probably only earned $600. So know what type of risk you're willing to take. Are you a high-risk or a low-risk person? Depending on that answer will determine which type of investment you would need to look towards. And then also you want to protect your family members. If you have people who depend on you, knowing that you need to have a life insurance policy. You don't want to pass away and then leave your family all the debt. So knowing what type of life insurance policy will best fit you is something that you also need to know about. And then again, just education. I wouldn't per se say go to formal education. You can take classes, you can read books. The internet has a plethora of information. So just understanding and educating yourself, I believe, is the measures that people should take.
So just to follow up on, this is Courtney, just to follow up on what Walida was saying, I think it's so important that we have to change our mentalities, as she said, but then begin with the end in mind. Essentially what Walida was saying was kind of vision yourself as an elderly person. But I say begin with the end in mind and kind of begin with your goals. What do you want this to look like next year? What do you want your financial situation to look like in 2 years, in 3 years, in 4 years, 5 years, and then looking overall and then making your goals from there and saying, okay, I want to have my own business in 5 years. And I think it's really important that we kind of figure out what's important to us. I think a lot of people spend time chasing someone else's values. There's more than one way to peel a potato. So it's okay if you don't have a passion to be a business owner. You know, what you can do is find ways to get yourself additional income in addition to your job, in addition to what's going on in your current job. And then you can say, okay, I have real estate, I have stocks and bonds and mutual funds. So that's another thing that you can do. Also, to the point about life insurance, people say, like, I don't have, well, if you have somebody to take that depends on your salary, you should have life insurance. But life insurance is necessary because it's going to cost something to put your body away, whether you're cremated, whether you're put in the ground, whatever your burial ritual tends to be, it's going to cost something. And I know so many people, especially in our community, are still paying for a funeral that happened 5 years ago because there was nothing to cover it. So it's kind of like all of those things together, especially in terms of looking into CDs. And I talk about bank products, and we laugh and call them certificates of death because a lot of times they don't even keep up with inflation. So by having your money in a CD and having it locked away for, say, 3 years or 5 years, you're not even meeting inflation, so therefore you're losing money. So it's so important to look into the stock market, to look into bonds, to look into ETFs, to look into something that's going to beat inflation, so you're able to kind of, at the very minimum, maintain what you have, because over time, the time value of money will come down. It will erode your wealth if you do nothing.
All right, sounds very interesting, because a lot of people can take that life insurance policy from somebody who died and left you that money, and they can use that money to start creating wealth. So when we don't have those life insurance policies, and then we're burdened with trying to get money, and we got all these GoFundMes, bury people, so we're asking the community to help us when we could have took care of that ourselves and had a nest egg from that, split it amongst the children or whatever, and they can start investing that, or that could be money to be used to get out of debt, and now they freed up income that they have to use to start creating businesses. So that's very good advice. I want to take the next question to LaShawn. When we talk about creating...
May I build on that a little bit, please?
Oh, sure, definitely.
Sure. No, I think the ladies hit the ball on the head with everything. But I want to say something about life insurance, which I'm certain most of you would agree with. The real purpose of it is so that your family members can continue to have some similar standard of living that they had before you passed away. Aside from burial as well. And it also could be used as a retirement planning tool, depending on what type of policy it is. And with CDs, I think the more people become savvy with investing and get involved with brokerage CDs, the really savvy investor who's very analytical and understands economics oftentimes uses CDs as a trading vehicle because they're merely just bonds, meaning trading them on price. So there is a way to build wealth with CDs, and even just to have them, even despite inflation issues, as a cash equivalent, because you've got to have some sort of cash equivalent, as part of your portfolio, or building your wealth just for emergencies, or if there are other buying opportunities out there as well. So it's a lot about education and passion, planning, and forward thinking. Are the three adjectives that come to mind when I think about building wealth and getting to know as much as you can. That's all I want to say.
That's a great point. This is Courtney. I just want to clarify the CDs. We talked about bank CDs, which really don't do anything with interest. But LaShawn brought up a really great point in terms of brokered CDs, and that's kind of like
that's Michelle.
I'm sorry, Michelle. My apologies. Exactly. Brokered CDs are so important, and they're great tools. But a lot of people don't even have brokerage accounts. So I want people to move. If you want to do a CD, you can do a CD, but let's not do it at a bank, because the options that they have are limited.
Right.
So I thought that was a great point. Sometimes I forget about brokered CDs, but thank you.
All right, so let's go to the next question to LaShawn. I know you talked about home ownership, and I know you were explaining to me something that's going on in Brooklyn. Can you explain to the audience a little bit about that? So if they're interested in being involved in that process that you're going to talk about, they can go through you?
Sure. So let me just start actually by talking about my own experience. I became a homeowner by buying a cooperative. So you don't have to purchase and maintain a whole house. You can still become a homeowner by purchasing a co-op apartment or a condominium. And as a young person, I was 26 years old, and I was fortunate to be able to purchase an apartment. But now, 20 years later, the value has increased 10 times. So even with investing in the CD or investing in other financial vehicles to save money, the home ownership route is, the return on your investment can be wonderful. And it also allows you to save money, because it's sort of like you can get in at a fixed rate, right? So you actually know what you're going to be paying, as opposed to being subject to rental or your rent going up every year or so, and landlords who are actually getting rich off of your rental income, or actually saving their money because you're renting in the property that they own. So we need to sort of look at that deeper and become more, I want to say, educated around, the topic of being a homeowner and the benefits of it. And so the NACA program, I found out about a few years ago, and have some friends who actually went through it. So NACA, N-A-C-A, stands for, the acronym means the Neighborhood Assistance Corporation of America. They're a national organization, and they've been around about 30 years. And what they offer is a very low interest rate, about 3%, but they also offer opportunities for people to purchase a home through counseling without having the mortgage be dependent on their credit, right? They also offer a wonderful opportunity for people to not have to have $50,000 down as a down payment. They cover those costs. Also, they have a wonderful product certified through HUD, where if you have Section 8, you can use your Section 8 voucher to put towards a mortgage, as opposed to renting an apartment. So that allows people from a wide variety of people to get access to their wonderful product. And so they're in the New York or New Jersey area. Their main office is in Newark. And so I've been working with the CEO and other employees to try to lobby, really, to get an office opened up in Brooklyn. And so where I work is in Brownsville. And as you may or may not know, Brownsville has the largest concentration of public housing in the entire country. So to be able to bring this product to Brownsville and provide those residents with an opportunity like this is phenomenal. And there's high poverty and so on and so forth. And so we're looking to utilize this product as a way of helping residents in Brownsville and surrounding areas to get access to home ownership and start to build wealth, as opposed to being in poverty. So we're really excited about it.
That sounds wonderful. And to be able to use your Section 8 vouchers to pay off your mortgage is very interesting, although Donald Trump does plan on cutting these Section 8 vouchers. So that opportunity might disappear for a lot of people.
Well, but people already have them. Maybe for people not maybe that may not be an option moving forward, but if someone already has it, it's going to take time. So that's why it's important for us to move now.
Right, and let's hope you don't cut off the Section 8 vouchers that people currently have, because they can do anything. So we'll look into that, and that's great advice. And for people who want to look into the organization, it's NACA, and that stands for
Neighborhood Assistance Corporation of America, and the website is NACA.com. And there's another important point. We also will be creating opportunities for employment, because what's really important is that the housing counseling and helping people in the community should be done by the people who live there. So the CEO has pledged to allow for that to happen. He's actually supportive of hiring locally and training people and paying them to be trained to provide the service in their own communities. So that's another important component.
Sounds wonderful. So now I want to take the conversation to Doreen, and I would like you to tell us, when clients come into your office, what is your approach with them when it comes to creating wealth? And I know that's a vague question, but you can answer that any way you choose.
Absolutely. So we have two kinds of clients, and I want to focus on one group because it's the group that I'm personally very passionate about, but the two groups are the individual and then the small business owner. As it relates to the individual, we have a lot of individuals that come into our office, and they are young professionals in their mid-20s, and they have started making, let's say, in the 40,000s or so, and are proactive, or want to be proactive about their financial independence because they're hearing so much that's going on in the news. So basically we sit with them and we assess where they currently are from a financial perspective. So we look at their student loan debt, their car debt, whatever debt that they've acquired to that point. And then we also talk about what their intentions are. So this is where you take into consideration dreams and goals. Where do you want to be in 10 years? How do you want to retire? Career-wise, where do you want to go? Do you have interest in starting a business? How do you think you can generate other sources of income? Because we all know that we cannot rely solely on income received from our employer. So we have those kind of discussions. And essentially, we put our clients on a 6-week, it's almost like a 6-week program where we meet with them on a weekly basis and we walk them through ways that they can capture their finances, monitor their finances on their own, and we teach them tools in order to take control. Things like, again, putting money into your 401k, paying down debt. And I want to just emphasize debt is such a big thing in our community. And a lot of lenders and banks, it's as though they're praying after, young people to get them into this debt spiral. And ultimately, you cannot have financial success if you continue to accumulate debt. So we kind of try to educate our clients on this, and we put them on a payment structure where they are able to pay down using I prefer the snowball effect, because it does have that psychological benefit. So through the program, we're essentially doing that education piece and then that mindset piece. Because the last thing you want is a generation of individuals that are hopeless and that feel as though they are going to remain in their current situation, whatever it is, whether it's high debt, low income for a very long period of time. We try to instill that empowerment in the clients that we work with.
All right, sounds very good. And Walida, I want to throw the question to you. When you work with clients, because earlier you had mentioned about changing the mentality and focusing on a budget, and Doreen just kind of talked about the budget as well. So taking it past budget, what's the next step that you do when you work with your clients?
Okay, so after the budget issue, you want to see how much debt a person has. You want to see how did they even get there. Is it something that they learned from their parents, or is it just something that they picked up as a bad habit? So after the budget issue, you really do need to figure out ways to tackle the debt, whether that means that they need to figure out ways to work more so that they can pay it down. If it's they need to temporarily put money aside for a vacation, instead of going on a vacation, not putting that money aside to the debt, the main thing is you want to tackle the debt. But a lot of times when you talk to a client, you realize that the issue is more psychological in terms of their environment. So they honestly don't even know that they're having an issue until you address that they do have an issue and that they have so much debt and they can't figure out a solution themselves, so there is no way they're going to pass on the generational wealth. So when I'm talking to a client, I start off with what's the lowest debt that they have. And whether that's owing back a relative or it's a credit card or it's a loan or student loans, I need to find out every single thing. So they have to write down all of their debts. And then, like I said, we'll use the snowball effect and we'll go step by step to try to eliminate. So if they owe, say, the lowest thing they owe is $200, we pay that off first. Once we do that, we'll take that money and apply it to the next debt. Once we pay down that debt, then we'll take that money and we will pay down to the next debt, so on and so forth until we pay it all off. But you don't stop paying all your other creditors. You continuously pay them, but you're only paying the minimum payment while you're paying off that lowest debt. And so that's like the biggest thing that I need to find out from my clients so that I can move forward with helping them with the next step, because after they have done that, then it's easier for them to put money aside for an emergency fund. And the reason you want to have that is because if you don't have an emergency fund, you'll rely back on your credit card, which, again, will put you back into a cycle of debt. And I prefer having $1,000 for an emergency. And that's only because if you have a breakdown with your car, if you have some type of appliance in your house that really needs to get fixed, $1,000 usually, for the most part, can cover it. But on top of that, you'll need to also have 3 to 6 months worth of bill money. And when I say bill money, these are things you can't live without. So you need to have a place to live, along with the utilities, along with the water, insurance, and things like that. So you want to have your emergency fund built up so that you don't have to touch that money all the time for retirement, per se, because that's a separate fund.
So let me interrupt you for a second. So I know you're talking about debt, and Doreen had talked about debt as well, and now you're talking about having a nest egg, like an insurance fund, just in case, a rainy day fund, just in case things go wrong, which is something that people should have as well. And then when we talk about clearing up debt, we got to mention that student loan debt can't be erased unless you're like
it cannot be erased.
Right. So you can't erase student loan debt. So those people out there that are taking out those student loans, just make sure you know you have to pay them back. You can't wipe that out on bankruptcy or anything like that. So I want to move the conversation into a different direction, and I want to come back to LaShawn. And LaShawn, with you talked about home ownership, right? And you also work with the Commerce. So besides home ownership, what are you seeing in your neighborhood that's affecting Black people in terms of why we are the poorest group? Like, what are we doing wrong, or what are we not doing enough of?
Well, I think that, going back to one of the other panelists, their statement around consumerism. Consumerism is a huge issue in our community. It's the sort of, trying to keep up with the Joneses, for lack of a better term. And I think that the mentality, as someone else mentioned, that is a real issue. And we have to shift that mindset and understand what it means to what it means to be wealthy. I mean, I remember a few years ago I ran a workshop, and I asked the question, can you tell me the difference between an asset and a liability? Most people they didn't even understand what an asset was versus a liability. So I think that the majority of folks who tend to be low income or, just, working class or what have you, really, do not understand that they live in a world of liabilities without increasing their assets. And, having a car is not an asset, it's a liability, And so I think that mindset is really the main issue, and really supporting, others to move ahead. And I say that by just looking at our surrounding businesses, so I'll go back to where I work. So I run a nonprofit. as well as serving with the Chamber, I run a nonprofit called Central Brooklyn Economic Development Corp., and we have a GED program, and as well as an after-school program. But when you look at the business corridor where we are, the majority of those businesses are owned by people who do not live in our communities. So if you're spending all of your money, if you shop where you live and you're spending all of your money and it goes and it leaves your community, that creates a huge void. That's a problem. So we need to also, and we are pushing with the Chamber to increase the number of people who not only own homes in their community, but also own the businesses there. And so that's another key element that we need to look at.
Okay, great information.
May I add something to that?
Sure.
So I do agree with that as far as the consumerism. It's a report called the Nielsen Report. Black people or African Americans as a whole, we're poor essentially because of our consumerism ways. But in terms of our spending power, we actually have a lot of money. They said that we as African Americans are only 13.7% of the population, and in 2015 we spent $1.1 trillion as consumers, which is the 15th largest GDP in the world. So when you think about it, we really do have a lot of money, but like as you said, we just need to allocate that money into our communities, and we need to, distribute the wealth along generations. And once we figure that part out, we will actually be considered one of the wealthiest groups in America because the money actually is there.
Well, I think we need to open up our own businesses and support our own businesses, and that's one of the ways we'll keep the money in our community, assuming the businesses are in our community. But we first have to build our communities, right? Because a lot of us are renters, a lot of us don't own property. So in essence, we really don't have a community. We just live in a neighborhood. So we have to start building our community. And LaShawn mentioned something about the after-school programs. Donald Trump has a bill to cut funding to the after-school programs, which is going to put a lot of kids on the street after school around 3 o'clock with nothing to do. So that's something that we have to fight.
Tyler, can I add to that? I'm sorry. So
Sure.
This is something very important for everyone to understand. So the after-school program so there are different levels of funding, right? We have city, we have state, and we have federal. The federal program that he's talking about cutting is the 21st Century program, right? So that's one program. But the program that we run is supported by the Department of Youth and Community Development, which is a city, local, city-based program and supported locally. So we are essentially not impacted by that, right? But the 21st Century programs that are in schools can be impacted. So that's why it's important for us to understand the different levels of funding and what it's attached to. So I happen to know that certain schools do have 21st Century programs. So now that when I became aware yesterday, I believe, or the day before, about what could be happening, now I'm going to have conversations with those principals to talk about what is the fallback plan if you lose this funding, then what? We need to make sure that we all understand and are all connected so that these children are not just sort of left hanging in the balance. And that's really, and I just want to emphasize, that these federal programs that are, at risk, there's still city and state level programs that are intact for the most part. So that's important for us to be aware of and know.
Okay, so now let's talk about buying black, owning black businesses, supporting our businesses. So Shalia, I know you have a business, right? What is your support for your business? Is it our community, our people who are supporting your business, or is it others? Is it a mix? What is it like, and what are you doing to get more black people to support your business?
Well, I would say I definitely have a mix. Considering the neighborhoods that I've been in. But I have found recently most people that are finding me, they are specifically looking for black skincare and a black skincare specialist. So, yes, getting a lot of people looking for people just to treat black skin.
All right. And Doreen, as a business owner as well, what is your clientele like? And what are you doing to increase your clientele to have more black clientele coming into your business?
Well, my target is, the black clientele. So what I'm doing is I'm going out into the community and specifically focusing on talking to black individuals and women specifically, because I've found there's actually such an an increase in entrepreneurship in the Black community. And so, this all came about because of a little bit of a fear or concern that I had, that here we are, we're having so many, Black individuals that are making a lot of money in entrepreneurship. I hope that they have the tools that they can manage their profits or manage the revenue appropriately. So I'm going out into the community. I'm speaking to groups wherever I can. If I meet a young business owner, I'm definitely speaking to them about, hey, what are you doing? Where are you investing your money? Are you putting it back in your business? What other investment vehicles are you interested in finding out about? All of those things.
All right, sounds good. So I want to open this question up to the whole panel, right? How many of us actually have accounts in Black-owned banks, right? Not Black-operated banks, but actual Black-owned banks. So does anybody on this panel have a banking Black, basically?
Okay, so this is LaShawn.
Okay.
No, this is LaShawn. So I have a personal and business account, as well as my organization has an account with City National Bank, the Black-owned bank in New York and New Jersey. They're based in Newark, but they do have a branch in East New York as well as Harlem. So we do bank with them, and we encourage everyone. I actually held a community walk to march people literally over to the bank to open accounts. So, yes. But what's interesting is that a lot of people are unaware of where the Black banks are. So that's another, issue that we have. I think that they would bank more if they knew where they were.
Well,
and we only have
Google
21 left throughout the country, actually. They're only 21, so we need to support them more because they're dwindling.
Do a simple Google search, and you guys can find a list of Black banks all around the country. And some Black banks you can bank online, so you don't necessarily need a physical branch in your neighborhood. So if people were really interested and they wanted the information, the same way they would search for the new Jordans that are coming out or the Beyonce tickets, they would do a search for a Black bank, and they would open up an account in a Black bank and just, support that, because then that money can come back in the community via loans and good interest rates and things like that. So it's important that we bank Black as well. So I also wanted to bring up supporting Black businesses. So there was an incident recently that was online. There's a video that went viral of a young lady, Black lady, who was shopping in an Asian store, an Asian beauty supply store, and the owners of the store accused her of stealing eyelashes. Now, eyelashes cost about $10, but they accused her of stealing these eyelashes. Turns out, from what I understand, that she did not steal the eyelashes, but yet they assaulted her and detained her and threw her on the floor and choked her, and reminiscent of Eric Garner. And I was very disturbed when I saw that. Then, a couple of days later, the NAACP came into the store, and they demanded an apology and some sort of compensation. And if that could happen, then they wouldn't boycott the store. So I want to know how you guys feel about that. And I'm going to start that off with Courtney.
I didn't see the video, so I'm not really sure about exactly what happened. But my concern is that when something like that happens to one of us, there's no options. There shouldn't be any option of, if you pay us or you give us an apology, we're not going to boycott you. No, it's done. Our relationship is over. And I think to kind of go back a little bit into what's going on politically, these things start creating opportunities. And when there's opportunities, there's an opportunity to have a business there. So the next thing I think that the NAACP should have done there is that, okay, we're boycotting you. And what we're going to do is we're going to support a business that mimics yours to make sure that you go out of business, because we want to let you know, and anybody else who's out there that might have gotten it confused, that we're not going to tolerate this type of behavior, because we spend our money here and we expect to be treated with respect. And if you can't do that because you've shown that you can't, then we don't do business with you, period. There's no negotiation. I feel that we negotiate our Black dollar entirely too much.
So does Walida or Doreen want to answer that question?
Okay. Yes, well, I couldn't agree more, because I actually saw the video and it was heartbreaking. I'm not going to comment on what she did or what she didn't do, but you just don't treat people the way this young lady was treated. And I think, given the fact that the business was in a Black community, I agree there shouldn't be compromise. There shouldn't be apologize, pay a fine. We're talking about, individuals' dignity and respect, and we shouldn't put a price on that. So what the community needs to do is kind of come together, and the businesses that are, I think, funded by Black people, we need to start creating those businesses ourselves so that we can support our own communities. There's no reason why this individual felt like he could get away with doing something like that and still have a business that's going to be supported by the Black community.
Yeah, I agree with that. If in the case, because I'm not sure about the full story about the young lady, but whether the situation was her fault or not, her punishment was severe for what her crime was. And so for that, I believe that the best way to retaliate in that type of instance would be to cut off all funds to that business, and like the young lady said before, put it towards a different business, because maybe legally they may win in court, considering how our courts are nowadays. But if we take away the lifeline, which is the money flow to their business, then it's unnegotiable. They're going to have to close down, and we can build another business there that will better treat us and that we could feel more comfortable supporting. So I do believe that that's the best way to handle an issue, is to just take away what they need the most, and that's customers and the money that the customers bring.
Excellent advice. So I want to touch on another topic, which is the Black church. So the Black church receives millions and millions of dollars every Sunday. And I'm not sure if we're depositing a lot of that money into Black-owned banks. And I don't know if that money that's going into the Black church is being reinvested into the Black community as a whole. Like the Black church might invest it in some areas that they're involved in, but everything can't be about them. Like they need to spread that more into the community, even if they're not directly involved in whatever that may be. So anybody can touch on that. How do you feel about the Black church, being that it's a business and it's an entity, and what they are doing with their money that they receive every Sunday? Because we are still the poorest group. Walida mentioned we have a lot of wealth, but we're not clearly doing a lot with the wealth. So where does the Black church play a part in this? And anybody can answer that question.
So I'm going to try to attempt to answer this the best way possible. But I'm originally from Indiana, which I'm from Gary, Indiana, so I'm on the border of Chicago. So my church is actually in Chicago. But my pastor there is Black. But what I have noticed with the money that he receives from the church is that he really doesn't take any of the money for himself. He takes a lot of that money, and he's built an after-school program, because you have a lot of single mothers or single fathers who, when they get off of work, the kids don't have anywhere to go. And in case you guys haven't heard about Chicago, it's not the safest place in the world. And the church is on the south side of all places. So he's building an after-school program. He's building a clinic so that people can come in for health care and not have to pay outstanding fees to go see a doctor, as well as having different initiatives to try to get the violence to go down. So I know we go to the White Sox Stadium a lot. We do marches. And, he's reaching out to political figures in the community to try to get them to advocate to help reduce the amount of crime. So I can't really speak for all churches, but I do know in that particular church, they are trying their best to make sure the money is being allocated back into the community. As far as the Black-owned bank, I'm not sure where the money is currently, but I believe that would be something that maybe the pastor should look into to make sure that the money is, handled with people who care about our situations.
Right, because it's a two-part solution, right? One, we need to bank Black. Two, we need to reinvest in our community with the dollars that they receive, right? So your church is investing in the community, they're investing in the people, and that's a wonderful thing, and that should be the standard. We also want to make sure that church is hopefully banking Black, so that we're supporting those Black business institutions, which is a really good thing. So we have about 7 minutes left on the show, and I want to give everybody an opportunity to take a minute or two to kind of tell us what they do specifically with their business, how people can reach you guys and contact you guys if they want to hire you as consultants or work with you on any particular thing. And all this information is also going to be included in the description on the website, which is Black Pill Radio. It's also going to be included on our YouTube page as well. So any of the information that's given, you guys will be able to, if you can't write it down now because you're not in that position, you'll be able to go back to the website or your YouTube page, and you can look at all the links that everybody has provided. So I'm going to start with LaShawn Muhammad, and I'm going to let you close this out first.
Okay, so it was wonderful. Thank you, Tyler, for having me on. It was wonderful to virtually meet all of you. Wonderful information. I just want to say one thing regarding the last topic. I want to include the Nation of Islam in this conversation. My husband, as you know, is a minister of Mosque 7C in Brooklyn, and the mosque is also another spiritual institution that does work a lot in the black community, in our community, and also with churches, right? And they do also bank with City National Bank. And, I think it's important that we have a really open conversation regarding the spiritual work, right? And, so whether it be through a church or through a mosque, we need to work, as a unified group, right, to address these issues in our community. So I just wanted to say that. The other thing is I can be reached. My website, as I said, I'm an executive director of Central Brooklyn Economic Development Corporation. Our website is www.cbedc.co. I also, as I mentioned, serve as the Brooklyn director of the Long Island African American Chamber of Commerce. And my phone number, actually, that can be reached is 718-498-4513. My email address is info, @cbedc.co. We are diligently working to help people establish new businesses, to expand your business, to, as I mentioned, become a homeowner. Feel free to reach out anytime, and I'll be happy to share information on upcoming events and workshops that we're having. Thank you.
Okay, and you're welcome. Thank you very much. So, Walida, would you like to finish this up?
Yeah, so my website is Walida, and it's spelled Willi, T as in Tom, A as in Alpha, Cherie, CHERIE.com, and that's all one word. And you can go on there, you can subscribe, you can contact me, and I have other information on there that you can see, different types of blogs. And I'm primarily used if you want to be educated about finance, as well as figuring out a plan to help you to be able to get out of debt and start to accumulate wealth. And again, it's Walida, WILLITA, Cherie, CHERIE.com.
Excellent. And Doreen, you are up next.
Okay, and it was such a pleasure being here today, and a lot of great information. So we are on Facebook. You can search Rayen, Rayeen, Consulting, CONS, consulting essentially. And our website is Rayen Consulting, Rayeen Consulting.com, or you can shoot us an email at info@rayenconsulting.com. And we do have social media, such as our Instagram page, which we post a lot of great information on personal finance and small business finance. And that's Rayen, Rayen _consulting.
Outstanding. Miss Shalia.
Okay, so my website is walkersapothecary.com. My email address is shalia@walkersapothecary. So that's SHALEA@WALKERSAPOTHECARY.com. And I can be reached at 908-230-2099. And on my website you will see everything available as far as spa menus. You can buy products. We have 3 different skincare lines. And thank you so much for having me here today.
You're welcome. And that's a black-owned business, people, so please get out there and support. And last but not least, Miss Courtney.
Yes, I'm Courtney Richardson I'm the founder of the Ivy Investor. I can be found on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at the Ivy Investor. Basically, we do a lot of millennial investing with women, but people of all ages. I'll be doing investing programs live and online. And then also Brown Girls Do Invest on April 1st in Chicago. I'll be on a panel at noon. So I look forward to working with everyone and hope to see you again. Thank you for having me.
You're wonderful. You're wonderful. You guys are all wonderful. Thank you for the great advice. Remember, go to the website, blackpillradio.com. On the website, we'll have all our social media followings. You can download our podcast on iTunes, Google Play, TuneIn, YouTube, and then we also have the Twitter page and we have the Instagram page, along with everything else is on the website. Soon on the website, we're going to have a resource page. So everybody who's been on the panel, we're going to create a mini bio with them, and links to their website, links to products that they're selling. All of that will be on the website so you can find these people. So if you want to contact these people for an interview or have them appear on your radio program or your podcast, we'll put that resource link up so everybody can do that. Also, you can always go to the website to rebroadcast what we just played on this podcast today and any previous podcasts that we're going to do. We're a Black-owned business as well, so we appreciate your support. We appreciate if you would share, subscribe, like, follow us, comment, and our Instagram so we can, talk back to you guys as well if you're not able to make the broadcast. And just follow the people who are online and support them, because everybody who comes online is doing this so they can spread information to you guys. That's what the Black Pill is all about. We want to give you that dose of medication so you guys can be woke. All right, so it's better than taking a sleeping pill. So with that said, I thank you guys for listening today. We're going to close it out. And as always, be safe, and we'll see you guys in 2 weeks.